The last time I visited, though, I thought he looked just as he usually was, happy and healthy. But things change. In the back of my mind, I knew that he would have to leave one day. It wasn't like humans could live forever. So why did my heart still feel so heavy? The car ride was mostly spent in silence, until he spoke again. "How was school? Maintaining your grades, I hope." Yeah. I've been trying my best so far." "Trying? That's not really doing as best you can, is it?" Mm. With my father, only some words I said were filtered through his ears. It was difficult to keep conversation without eventually talking about academics or my future, even if it was something loosely based on it. He always found a way to integrate it whenever we talked. "Anyways, your belongings are in the trunk. There isn't a lot, so I'm sure you can manage bringing them inside the house. After all, you're on the road to being independent now." "Yeah, I can manage on my own." The usual silence resumed between us. I wasn't really sure what to say around him, especially when most of the time we didn't share the same opinions. One question did linger in my mind, though. If he was going to justify acting so nonchalant at grandfather's funeral, I had the right to at least know why. "Try it again or leave it alone." "Oh, we're pushing him. He's going to talk." "Say, Dad, about you and Grandpa." "We're not talking about this." "I feel like we should, because Grandpa did leave us yesterday, so—" "I wouldn't care if he left us long before that. I do not want to hear it, and that's the end of this conversation." As always, he managed to shut up any other form of conversation related to him. It was just like what happened last night. I opened my mouth silently, but closed it again. It was like talking to a brick wall. It wasn't like I couldn't find out anything, somehow arguing my way through it. All right, then. I leaned against the car door and stared out the window. I really couldn't think. What would this place be like? It had been my grandfather's house before, but it was one thing visiting, and it was another thing actually living here. How would I manage living on my own, without any training, to really care for a house? I knew that naturally the bills would be paid by my parents, who inherited grandfather's stocks to the corporation, but I had never lived independently before. Thinking about it made me feel like some kind of bird being pushed out of the nest. Though I was technically an adult, I felt unprepared and a bit daunted by the prospects of actually moving into a new place. Most people my age would be ecstatic moving out. After all, it would symbolize some kind of change in their lives, like being on the road to independence. But I felt like nothing of the sort. I really hoped I wouldn't let my parents down. I wouldn't want to let grandfather down. What would he be saying right now? I gazed up at the passing clouds in the sky. If you're out there, grandfather, how would you be doing? Would there be anything you'd want to tell me at all at this moment? And of course, no answer. What was I doing? Searching for an answer in a heaven that would or would not exist? I ducked my head to stare out the blur of trees and cars out the car window. My head was definitely going into the clouds right there at that moment. Either way, I found myself being driven off to my new home. The car rolled to a stop, and I drifted out of my thoughts. "Here we are. Go on in." "All right. Tell Mom I love her." "All right." "I love you too, Dad." "No, make sure you come by and visit us often." "No, I'm gonna miss you lots." Nothing other than a blank stare. I paused a bit before reaching the car door handle, waiting for any form of goodbye, but he did not speak again. I sighed and exited the car, hearing my dad pop open the trunk. I saw the 2 large bags I packed last night that were enough to carry the only things that I needed. I took them out, placed one bag on each shoulder, and closed the trunk. Then he drove off, leaving me alone in front of the mansion. I watched the blue car fade into the distance of the road before turning to my new home. There it is, huge. My grandfather gave me this? It's hard to believe. The house was framed by a set of tall gates, and I hesitantly pushed them aside to take in the entire estate. The house looked like it was when I'd last visited him. At a glance it seemed kind of intimidating with its size, Though if I came closer, it was clear that there was a lot more to it than that.